You gotta stop, man. Just stop taking bad trades. How many times have you been frustrated with yourself over taking a trade that in the moment might have seemed to roughly follow your rules? It might have been okay, but then looking back, it's just like, man, why was I even thinking to take that? In today's video, if you watch the whole thing and you get through it all, I guarantee that you're gonna at least get some value to have a sort of shift in mindset or just a different perspective on how to really chart read and how to approach your trading day. So we're looking at S&P 500 futures, but this can really be applied to any market, stocks, options, forex, whatever it is, and it's simply going to be how you know when to buy, how you know when to sell. Seems really easy, seems too good to be true, right? Well, let's get right into what happened. So we're about 1 hour before market open. And at the moment, we just have a clear move up. No reason to think to sell. I'm only looking for pullbacks to buy low. And then if we were trading in the other direction, if we were trending down, I'm going to look for a place to sell high. Remember, buy low, sell high. Always looking for these spots to get extra value in the markets. And notice how in my method, I'm not even drawing any trends yet because it's really too early to even tell exactly what's happening. Yeah, we have a push up, but it really looks like a push up. Looks like we have a sort of trading range, and we're just breaking out of the trading range. So we constantly have in these markets a push phase followed by hesitation, followed by a push phase, followed by some hesitation. And I really think it's very, very powerful just to draw these trading ranges no matter how small they may be, and I'm always going to look to sell high and I'm going to look to buy low. So a lot of people like to trade the breakout of these ranges, but that's not the value move. That's not the efficient thing to do in the market. I'm always going to want to seek the liquidity at the top, look to sell if we break out. Same thing at the bottom. If we break out the bottom like we did here, and we have an excellent signal bar or a third confirmation to really show that this support level is valid, I'm going to look to buy as well. So right now we're just having that failed breakout. We expect to at least go back down even though we're in an uptrend. So unless we have a very, very convincing move down, I still don't want to sell, but it's just giving me an idea of, okay, really the most recent price action has been sideways, so there's a bit of a bias towards going long, but I'm not going to be married to only taking long entries because this sort of weak uptrend can really end at any point. And notice how we're still just moving sideways, so I'm going to extend my range a little bit. So this might come into play, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. We have some congestion. Bars are so stacked, so it's really just, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, so I'm going to wait on my hands. I'm not going to force an entry. So many times you might get bailed out by one trade that kind of breaks your rules, that you went long right here, you got a little scalp out of it, and you were like, okay, any bullish bar at the EMA I'm going to take. But remember, you have to keep the overall context into picture and what these bars are telling you. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, almost 10 bars stacked in a row, I don't care what the bias is. It's sideways right now. I'm going to avoid that at all costs. I even like to draw these mini congestions just to show myself what's really going on. I'll get rid of the previous one because now this is the most recent price action. The most recent price action is really right here, and we're at market open. So let's see what happens. I'm expecting to have a failed breakout of this mini range, and then if we have a nice bullish bar, I want to take a long to get back into this mini range now. So even here, we have a nice bearish signal bar. You know what? You might even argue for this short up here. It is aggressive because we have been trending up, but honestly, it's the first touch, second touch, third clear, at least resistance at this level, followed by a very, very bearish bar. We had some hesitation, so that's why it's a little bit aggressive, but it ended up working out. For a scalp, or even if you wanted to take it for more, who knows? It would have worked out, but that just goes to show you want to look for these failed breakouts. So now we have a failed breakout at the bottom, but this kind of looks like a nice concise little move down. So until we have a nice higher low, I don't want to resume going up. So in real time, I actually took this trade right here. Even though the bar looks like a doji now, in real time it printed ending on its high. It was a much more bullish looking bar, but even though it's a doji, it's still a bar that we pushed up, we came down, tested the EMA, almost ended on the high. We're once again looking to try to ride prices to the back, to the top of this trading range, because if we're in this range, we broke out the bottom, push up, we want to look for an excuse to go long, higher low. I'm going to take that all day, and it ended up working out. So now we're at the top of the range. We don't want to look for longs anymore, even though the overall context of the market is that, yes, we've been pushing up, but we can't just ignore all of this liquidity at the highs. So we break out the top. I'm not looking to go long. If we have a nice higher low, or lower high, should I say, I might consider going short. Here you have another bullish bar at the EMA with many bars stacked. I'm not going to take that long. I'm not going to take this long either, because even though it looks like we have one leg down, first entry long, another leg down, second entry long, once again, I'm going to not just ignore these bars that are printing, because everything matters. It does look like we're just sideways, so you might consider that long. I'm going to skip it. It's just too sideways for my liking. And we didn't even get a trigger, but we did end up pushing up. Now we have a nice bearish bar, once again at this level, but still too stacked, too sideways. I'm not really sure what's going to go on. And now, here's a very interesting spot once again. It's a third, maybe even fourth clear touch at this level. It's the previous high of the range we had before. A nice bullish bar where we expect to start looking to go long because we broke out the bottom of the range. I'm okay with taking this as a entry. Low risk, and we ended up going back to the top. But now it looks very, very sideways. So here we have another lower high. Can we take this lower high though? No, because we want to look to buy low, sell high. This would be selling low. You'd be selling at the bottom of this range. Now you might say, okay, well, if we zoom out, we're in a bigger range and you could just draw it like this, right? Say you had a range like this, which honestly does look valid. It might come into play, but it doesn't change the fact that right in front of us, we also have another range. You can't just ignore the fact that there's a range within a range. Yes, that can happen. So even though there's a nice lower high, and in the overall context, we're looking to sell high. So it would be selling high, expecting to go back to the lows of this bigger range that we have. But if we also pay attention to the context right in front of us, we want to look for a failed breakout of the most recent buys as well. And I'm not going to take this short, but I can see how someone might have argued for that. But it is a dangerous trade, and it would have got you stopped out. So now we're still working in this range. We're still working sideways technically. So we have a breakout at the top. Let's see what happens. We have sideways, 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 and we start breaking out. And you know what? I'm going to start drawing another mini range. That's all you really need in a day like today, and in the markets that we've really been having, because it's really just a lot of sideways movement followed by movement up or down. But really, it's just a lot of sideways. Let's zoom out to give ourselves a little bit more context. Yeah, of course you could zoom out and then draw some sort of wide uptrend, but in reality, this will get you into a lot more trouble in the long run than just focusing on these ranges. Yes, you should have a bullish bias in mind, but also keep in mind that you're still just playing range rules at the end of the day, even though we're moving up. So I don't see any entries right here. We break out the top. Let's see what happens. We get another bullish bar, but I'm, again, not just going to ignore this sideways movement. It just doesn't attract me. If you took that long, yep, you would have got stopped out. So we're still sideways, still sideways, still sideways. No real entry. I mean, you could honestly argue for this long right here. But we've pushed down very far. I would rather wait for a higher low confirmation that we're going to go higher, because now it looks like we pushed lower, but there we go. There we have a nice higher low. We really look at what's happening though. We might honestly want to draw that wider range now, because if we are looking to buy low, we want to look for a spot to start buying and for prices to reverse. So if we do have some bullish bars right here, it might be intriguing to look to go long with the expectation that we should go to the high of the range. So honestly, this higher low is a nice entry. If you got in there, kudos to you. And what I like to do, just to not confuse myself as these bars are really printing, I do adjust my drawings. I do just like to get rid of drawings, and sometimes the naked chart is easier once you've already gone through the previous price action. So now this looks like the most clear setup to me. It looks like this range has finally formed. We were just in a sort of range in the bottom half. We were ranging in the top half. We're ranging in the bottom half again. And I expect prices to go to the highs. But what happens? We end up reversing. So that's okay. Now we just have to reassess once again. We push down, we push down, we push down. So now I'm going to actually get rid of this drawing once again, because we're just rocketing down. And once we start reversing, then I'm going to look at an overall context. Okay, maybe the range is wider than I thought. Maybe it's just at these lows, and we were just playing in the top half of this wide range. So let's see where we bounce. We bounce basically right where we bounced previously, about 30 minutes before market open. So if you start pushing up and going back to the highs of the day, I would not be surprised. But it does just look a little bit up and down. I don't see any great entries here. You could argue for a sort of lower high of a larger legged, two-legged pullback, where we have one leg, two legs, lower high. But what I really see once again is a potential range within the range that could just look like this. So honestly, you could argue for this short. Let's see if it would have worked out. It does. I'm expecting to bounce here, go to the highs once again. Risky trade right there. It is technically a third touch at this level, because we touched here once, touch here again, touched here. Could go long there. You could wait for a lower high. We do get that lower high right there. Could argue for that. If we get another lower high above the EMA, you could even argue for that. But both these trades would have worked out for a nice scalp. And we do eventually get that higher low above the EMA. So I'm going to look to go long right there. And that was one of the great trades for today. And now we're looking to potentially start selling at this high level once again until proven otherwise. So you could argue for this, but because we have such a nice move up, I'm going to respect that uptrend. I'd rather wait for a break, new high, then a nice bearish sell-off. It did work out, but can't be too sure that would have happened. Now it just does look very sideways. Let's see what happens. We try to push lower, and then we ended up just rallying a bit. Still looks a bit sideways. You know what? Starts to look sideways. I'm just going to draw another sort of trading range. Looking to buy low, looking to sell high. Are we able to sell high there? You know what? Maybe. It's tempting, but you know what? I'm not actually going to argue for that, just because if we look at an overall context now, you have to keep that in mind as well. You have to look at the microscopic and the macroscopic. So overall, even though we have a nice bearish bar here, I'd rather wait for a third confirmation, because this is really just a second confirmation at this level. Overall, if we are indeed in this wider range, I'm expecting to go to the highs of the day. I don't really want to sell unless it's a perfect setup. Let's see if this short would have worked out. and you would have got trapped. So, you know, I could see why you would argue for that trade, but at this point, it's presumable that we might just keep rallying up. It still looks very sideways to me. Still looks like no real great entries. Very, very stacked bars. Here's an interesting spot, because now we pushed below the EMA. We have a lower high. We had these bars stacked. We had 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 clear touches. Notice how I didn't say you could sell here, because the bars are still very stacked. Keep in mind, this just looks like congestion to me. But the fact that we pushed below the EMA, had a nice bearish bar, now is where I might start thinking, okay, maybe we're just having what we had earlier, where we just had some congestion at the bottom half, congestion at the top half, and we're really just in a wider range. So we're getting to the bottom of the range. What happens? We have a nice bullish bar here. Can you take this? You know what? I'll say you could take that, because we have 1 touch here, 2 touch here, 3 touches here, honestly a 4th touch here. Nice bullish bar. It's bullish for a reason. We're away from the EMA. You actually want to see that, so there's a higher chance to get back to the EMA. You have more space to the EMA, and it would have worked out for the scalp, followed by some more sideways movement, but we do end up breaking below. So now we got to flip gears once again. Okay, we're trending lower. Maybe it's just a wider range in itself. And what happens? We just start rallying lower, and we don't really get any good trade. It's about to be market close, but that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Hope you guys found some value. Just a way to analyze the markets, way to chart read, always thinking about areas of liquidity, selling high, buying low. Let me know if you guys have any questions, comments. Let me know if you guys want to use Apex Trader Funding. Use my code, Replicanto Trade Copier. You know how it is. Peace out, guys.